Hi, it's time for another reading vlog, another spookopoly reading vlog. If you don't know, spookopoly or spookoplathon is a readathon created by Becca from Becca and the Books, based on what used to be her monthly TBR game, Spookopoly, in which basically she played a game of Monopoly to find different reading prompts to decide what she was going to read that month. And then she turned it into a 48-hour and a month-long readathon. A 48-hour one has been retired for a couple of years now, sadly enough, because I absolutely adored participating in that one. But the month-long ones are still going on. This year is maybe perhaps her final round. We don't know. Becca's still a bit unsure about it, but it could potentially be. And the last 2 years, monthly rounds have been spooky themes, hence the name Spookoplathon. They've been in October, Halloween themed fun times. And yeah, this is the second half of the readathon for me, because otherwise these vlogs will be too long, and weekly vlogs just stress me out too much. So I split these spookoplathon vlogs into two. The first half end up halfway through the month. I literally just like finished uploading that and sharing everything. And this is the second half, which will go up in the beginning of November, which, you know, you already seen, so who cares. But go watch that first part first if you want to know more of my journey. I'll also leave Becca's channel in the description so you can learn more about the readathon, and also just to watch her, because I think she's an amazing content creator. Like, she's one of my favorite booktubers on a platform, so definitely recommend. But I'll also leave that part one linked below as well, so you can go check that out. So yeah, it's already the evening on October 16th. I turned on my flashlights. It's the evening of October 16th. I spent a lot of time editing my part one vlog today, and like it's been a hassle, but luckily I ended part one by finishing a book, so that means I get to wall again, because I wall as I go, because I'm a mood reader. It's the most fun. So I did another wall. It's my 11th wall already, which is impressive. So let's just see where I line it up. And I landed on pumpkin carving, which is to read a book with a face on the cover. And with like the little graphic, I always use the like English covers. Like, I think this is the US cover, might also be the English one, I don't know, the first one Google pops up. But I got this from the library, so it's a Dutch copy, and she very much has a face, so it counts, even if the other cover and like my little graphic doesn't have it. But I'm reading none of this is true, but at least I jewel. I already mentioned in my last vlog that when I went to the library at the end of last month, I purposely picked up a lot of mystery thrillers for this readathon, and I haven't had the opportunity that much to get to them. But I was very excited when I saw a face on the cover, and I first doubted if this, I thought it was the back of her head, so I was like, oh god, it's so close. But then I looked at it, and it's the font, so it counts. Yay. And this is one that came out last year, and I've been extremely excited to read because everybody has been raving about this, so I have just been very curious about it. I did already start reading this today, as like my videos were like uploading, exporting, and I couldn't do anything, and I got to page 104, and so far I do feel like it is a bit slow moving, and not a whole lot has happened yet. There is definitely like some intriguing stuff, like some things going on underneath the surface that you're like, I wonder what's going on here, but nothing like too, you know, too much. Like, it's still very surface level in a way. The only thing is that we get interspersed throughout this, we get like these things, it's called like a transcript from a Netflix original series, and basically it started off with the opening of that series being that the meeting of these two women like ended up in two murders, or two their bodies. They might not have been murdered, but like, knowing this genre, they probably were. And we don't know who those two bodies are, what happened, whatever, but having these like interspersions of that documentary throughout is very interesting, and I love it. Also has like a podcast element to it that I really enjoy, because one of the main characters is a podcast maker and makes a podcast together with a other main character about her life. So I think that is really interesting. And of course the title, None of This Is True, is very intriguing as well, because what does that mean? You know, I don't know, I'm curious, but I don't totally get yet why people love it so far. But I am intrigued to keep reading just a tad bit more tonight, and then I'll read much more of it in the coming days. Alright, So I fucked myself over. So basically everything after this initial clip that I filmed for this reading vlog was filmed with my mic covered. And then I realized that, and I actually filmed a lot during this time where my mic just wasn't working. And it wasn't until I went to edit this vlog that I realized that. So I'm sorry. I did fix things. Everything's working normally now, thank God. But that does mean I've made this vlog even less excited than it was, because what happened is after giving you that update, I immediately got really sick the day after. If you watched my part 1 spookoplathon vlog, you know that I've been feeling under the weather for a little bit before that as well, and I just kept thinking that I was gonna get sick, but it just wasn't breaking through properly, and then it did. So I did spend most of my second half of the month just being terribly ill and not reading because I was in a constant state of mind fog. There was a day though that mind fog just like cleared up, and then I finished on This Is True by Lisa Jewell. It ended up being a 2-star. I absolutely despise this book. By the end of it, not despise this book, it's not a 1-star, it's not awful, but I just really didn't like the direction this ended up going in. I feel like the reveals were extremely predictable, slightly icky, and just a lot of my issues I have with this book I can't discuss because of spoilers. But because, as you can tell in that first clip, I already wasn't like too in love with it, I was intrigued by it, but I wasn't like getting it fully, and then having all of those reveals kind of being such a letdown, this just ended up not really being the book for me, and I don't get the hype around it basically. And yeah, those are all my thoughts on this book. I literally, in my initial vlog where everything was going on, I also didn't say that much more about this book just because, like I said, most of the things that I have thoughts on I can discuss because of spoilers, but just know I didn't like this one. And so that was on the day my mind fog cleared up, and I thought I was getting better because of that. And then I of course rolled again, and I of course rolled a double, as you can tell, and ended up landing on shells, which here's the thing, I filmed the clip of me spinning the wheel, obviously, because if you don't know, chance basically means originally in the game you're supposed to have like these cards printed out. You're supposed to print out these cards and on the back of them write books you really want to read and books you don't really want to read, and then randomly pull them as you land on chance. But because I do this whole readathon digitally, I just use my wheel of TBR, which is a wheel consisting of every book that I have on my physical TBR, which is a decent mix between books I really want to read right now and books I don't really want to read right now. All of the books on there are books I do want to read eventually, but you know, a mood is a mood. So I spun the wheel for that. I'll just insert the clip like over me talking because, you know, you don't understand it, but you can still see that it landed on Ninth House by Libardigo, which is actually one of the books on the top of my TBR list for this year, and I have, including Ninth House, I have 4 books of that left, so I needed to make my way through this. So it was like a decent pull, even though this book I had been a bit intimidated by over the years, which is why it's taken me so long to read it, because I have loved Libardigo in the past so much. The only ones that I didn't really like was the King of Scars duology, but like when I bought this I hadn't read those books yet, so that doesn't play into my factor of putting off reading this book. So but I have been, because it's just been intimidating me. So when at first the wheel landed on it, I was like, oh no, and I was like, maybe this is like the right thing to push me to finally read it. So there we go. And then because I rolled a double, I had to roll again. And this roll landed on black, so a book with a black cover. And you know, I could have doubled up, picked Ninth House, but because I was so still like intimidated to read that book, I wanted something kind of like more fun and easier to read, to kind of like break things up, because like I said, I thought I was getting better, and even though like I wasn't at 100% yet, I thought like if I have something like kind of more fun to break things up, it might be easier for me to get some reading done. So I picked up Long Live Evil by Sarah Reese Brennan, which is a guy from NetGalley. The cover isn't like fully black like Ninth House is, but it's like very dark, predominant, like has some black on it, so I feel like it counts. So I picked that up as well, and I actually started this the same night I finished Not As Is True, but I didn't really get that far. I think like 1 or 2 chapters before just like knocking out of sleep. And then I was right. The mind fog after that was gone, but like sheer exhaustion just like hit me so hard for like another week after that. So I didn't do any more reading again until like the last couple of days of October, like that last little week from like Monday to Thursday. I did do a little bit more reading. I read up to just over the halfway mark of Ninth House and to the 24% mark of Long Live Evil. So that's how far I got in both books. Just because being sick put me behind on a whole lot of tasks, and I was so overwhelmed with everything I needed to get done that I just did nothing. I don't know, I kind of just didn't really do much. I did read a little bit, but not as much as I could have in those 4 days. So technically those two books don't fit into my Spookopoly kind of like wrap up, but I do have to say that I did finish Ninth House on November 1st, so I do want to give you my thoughts on it just to have a bit more of a complete vlog, especially now that there's no vlogging. So Ninth House ended up giving 4 stars. I really enjoyed this and liked this much more than I expected. I did not need to be as intimidated by it as I was, because honestly this wasn't a dense read. It did take a little bit to get into just because you're thrown right into things, so it takes a little bit to get your footing, but I feel like that's like 1 or 2 chapters and after that you like get going, and it's such an entertaining read. Like I genuinely flew through this, didn't want to put it down, loved reading it. I really love Alex Stern as the main character. I thought she was so interesting and kind of loved seeing her backstory, but also of course in the present tense I also love following her. This book mainly centers around like 3 mysteries, and I love the way those kind of ended up coming together in the end, and like the reveals and everything are just really well crafted and I really liked it. The only problem why this wasn't a 5-star for me is that I feel like the secret societies and like the magic system of this world just are a bit too vague for me. I feel like I was left a bit too much in the dark. Like I know enough to technically follow along with this story, but I felt like I was like grabbing in the mist a little bit, all those aspects, which is why this was a 4-star. But I did really enjoy it, and I'm very excited to read the sequel, and I'm glad that Spookopoly kind of pushed me to read this one, because I don't know when else I would have gotten to it. And then also on November 1st, I got to 27% of the way through Long Live Evil, and I decided to DNF it because this is so boring. Like I'm sorry, it is like whole first quarter of this book, like almost nothing happens, and everything is so dragged out and so long, and I'm so worried, and I just really did not enjoy my time reading it, and I just decided to call it quits because I genuinely was dreading having to pick this book. So I told myself I didn't need to anymore. And yeah, that is the second half of Spookopoly. I honestly feel like this vlog just ends up perfectly showing how much of a disaster this second half was. Despite actually not vlogging any of the second half. I still can't believe I did all that filming with my mic not working and not realizing it. It sucks ass. Especially because I filmed this vlog and then I also filmed another vlog. I'm reading Ninth House for another vlog as well, so that's all scrapped. And then I actually ended up filming 3 videos as well with my mic covered, and I got my mic broken, so yeah, I have to redo all of those as well now. So you know, in the next couple of videos you're gonna see from me, bear patience with me because I've been having a rough time. And yeah, I did still really enjoy Spookopoly though. I just, you know, life throwing a wrench in the way, and therefore I didn't really read that much during the second half. Technically I only read 1 book, which is a bit shameful, but overall I read 9 books for the entire readathon. I picked up a lot of books I otherwise wouldn't have necessarily gravitated towards first, but I also picked up some books that I was really excited for in the moment. I read a lot of seasonal books, which is also great because I sometimes forget to do that around this time of year, so I'm glad that Spookopoly kind of like forced me to do that. And of course it's always just like a joy of a readathon to participate in. Life just didn't have it in the cards for me, but yeah, that's it for this reading vlog. If you read any of these books, let me know in the comments what you thought of them, as well as if you participated in this Spookopoly, how it went, and hopefully I'll see you around next time. Good. Here I am again, the same old situation. Why does the God thing have to be so complicated?